There is one simple private act that most men over 50 are too ashamed to discuss, yet it may be the single most powerful tool you have to protect your prostate, sharpen your mind, and reclaim your vitality. It is an action surrounded by silence, veiled in cultural taboo, yet from a purely clinical standpoint, ignoring this fundamental aspect of your own biology is a significant and avoidable health mistake. The dissonance between how we are taught to feel about this and what our bodies actually need is vast, and bridging that gap is a critical step towards empowered aging. Stick with me through this entire discussion, because this isn't just about a single act. It's about a complete reevaluation of what it means to care for your body as a man. At the very end, I'm going to share a crucial mindset shift that will reframe how you see your own health and longevity, moving this from a taboo topic to a prescribed, essential part of your personal wellness routine. This final piece of the puzzle is what ties everything together, so you absolutely do not want to miss that. Prostate protector. Let's begin with the organ that, for many men, becomes a source of immense and often unspoken anxiety as they age, the prostate. This small walnut-sized gland sits strategically just below the bladder, and its health is absolutely central to a man's quality of life, influencing everything from urinary function to sexual health. We often only think about it when something goes wrong: difficulty urinating, frequent nighttime trips to the bathroom that disrupt precious sleep, or the dreaded cancer diagnosis that can turn a life upside down. This reactive approach is, unfortunately, the norm. But what if I told you that proactive, preventative maintenance is not only possible, but is linked to an act that has been shrouded in unnecessary shame for centuries? The paradox here is almost cruel. The very thing society has taught men to feel guilty or secretive about may be one of the most effective, accessible, and cost-free ways to keep this vital gland healthy. It's a profound disconnect between deeply ingrained cultural norms and straightforward physiological reality, a gap that we must close for the sake of our long-term well-being. Inside the prostate are thousands of tiny ducts, a complex and delicate network of microscopic plumbing. Their primary job is to produce and secrete the fluid that constitutes a major part of semen. Like any intricate plumbing system, whether in a house or in the human body, it functions best when it is flushed regularly. When it's not, things can stagnate. The fluid can thicken, its pH can change, and its chemical composition can be altered by internal and external factors. This stagnation creates a perfect environment for the buildup of calcifications, known medically as corpora amylacea. These are essentially small, hardened protein deposits, like tiny specks of grit in a finely tuned engine. While not inherently dangerous in small amounts, they can, over time, contribute to blockage and chronic inflammation, creating an environment that is less than optimal for healthy cellular function. This is often the precursor to conditions like chronic prostatitis or benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, painful and frustrating inflammatory conditions that affect a significant percentage of the male population, especially as they get older. It's a slow, silent process of internal congestion. This is where the concept of regular ejaculation comes in, whether with a partner or alone. It's not about morality, it is purely about mechanics and biological hygiene. Each time this occurs, the muscles surrounding and within the prostate contract rhythmically and forcefully, expelling the accumulated fluid. Along with it, this process flushes out potential carcinogens, inflammatory byproducts, and the very calcifications that can lead to problems. Think of it as systematically clearing out the pipes, a fundamental process of biological housekeeping that prevents buildup and maintains flow. The data on this is becoming increasingly compelling and impossible to ignore. Multiple large-scale, long-term epidemiological studies, including a notable and widely cited one from Harvard University's School of Public Health, have followed tens of thousands of men over many years. The findings from these diverse cohorts consistently point in one clear direction. Higher ejaculation frequency is directly correlated with a lower risk of developing prostate cancer. This isn't a fringe theory, it is an observation from mainstream respected medical research. The mechanism isn't entirely proven with absolute certainty, but the leading hypothesis is this prostate stagnation theory. By regularly clearing the ducts, you may significantly reduce the amount of time that potential cancer-causing substances, whether from environmental toxins, diet, or metabolic byproducts, are in direct contact with the delicate epithelial cells lining the prostate. It's a simple yet powerful washout effect. You are, in essence, performing a regular, targeted cleanse of a critical internal organ. This isn't just a marginal benefit. The studies have shown a statistically significant risk reduction, sometimes upwards of 20 or even 33%, for men who reported the highest frequency compared to those with the lowest. This is not a license for a specific behavior or a moral judgment, but rather a clinical observation of a powerful correlation that we cannot and should not ignore from a preventative health standpoint. It is a piece of actionable health information. We need to fundamentally reframe this entire act. It is not an indulgence. It is not a sign of weakness, of vice, or a moral failing. From a urological and oncological perspective, it is a functional mechanism for maintaining glandular health. It is as fundamental to male wellness as flossing is to dental health or stretching is to muscular health. We view those activities as responsible, necessary acts of self-care without a second thought. It is time we view prostatic maintenance in the exact same light as a matter of personal responsibility. The shame and silence surrounding this topic are actively preventing men from understanding a key lever they can pull to protect themselves. By ignoring this, or worse, by feeling guilty about it, you are potentially foregoing one of the most accessible, cost-free, and effective preventative health strategies available to you. The conversation needs to change, starting right now, from one of stigma and secrecy to one of science, health, and self-preservation. This is about taking control of your health in a way that is empowered, informed, and proactive. Chemical comfort. Now let's move from the specific mechanics of the prostate to the global impact on your body's entire operating system. I'm talking about the incredible, tangible cascade of neurochemicals that are released during and after an orgasm. This isn't just a fleeting moment of pleasure. It is a profound biological and pharmacological event that can recalibrate your mood, your perception of pain, and your fundamental ability to handle stress. It's a built-in reset button for your nervous system. As we age, many people experience a noticeable shift in their hormonal and neurochemical baselines. Moods can feel flatter, less vibrant, anxiety can creep in more easily, transforming small worries into significant stressors. Sleep can become fragmented and less restorative. We often chalk this up to the inevitable, unavoidable process of getting older, a slow decline we must simply accept. But what we often miss is that we have a built-in, all-natural pharmacy in our own bodies that can powerfully counteract these very changes. When you experience an orgasm, your brain is flooded with a precisely orchestrated cocktail of powerful, beneficial compounds. Let's break them down to understand their true value. First, there's a significant surge of dopamine. This is often called the molecule of motivation, but it's more than that. It's the neurochemical of reward, focus, and drive. A healthy dopamine system is what makes you feel engaged with life, curious, and capable of experiencing pleasure from activities. It is the engine of your ambition and your joy. As we get older, dopaminergic pathways can sometimes become less sensitive, a process known as downregulation. This can manifest as a condition called anhedonia, a general lack of interest or joy in things that you used to love, hobbies, food, social interaction. Life can start to feel like it's in grayscale. The potent dopamine release from an orgasm acts as a powerful reset, reinforcing these critical reward circuits and reminding your brain what pleasure and engagement feel like. It is a direct biological antidote to apathy and listlessness. Simultaneously, your body releases a wave of endorphins. These are your body's endogenous opioids, its own natural pain-relieving and euphoria-inducing chemicals. They are structurally similar to powerful drugs like morphine and are incredibly effective at dampening pain signals traveling through the nervous system. For anyone living with the chronic aches and pains that can often accompany aging, arthritic joints that protest on cold mornings, a stiff back after a day of work, persistent muscle soreness, this is incredibly significant. The analgesic, or pain-killing effect of an orgasm can provide temporary but meaningful relief, often lasting for several hours. It's a natural, side effect-free alternative or supplement to constantly reaching for over-the-counter pain medication, leveraging your body's own innate healing and comfort systems. It offers a brief, welcome respite from the background noise of chronic pain, which in itself is a huge mental relief. Then there is oxytocin, often called the cuddle hormone or the bonding hormone for its role in social connection. While it's famously associated with the bond between a mother and child or the deep connection between romantic partners, it is also released in significant quantities during self-stimulation. Oxytocin is a powerful anxiolytic, meaning it actively reduces anxiety. It accomplishes this by lowering blood pressure, reducing cortisol levels, and dampening the activity of the amygdala, the brain's fear and threat detection center. This fosters a deep, pervasive sense of calm, safety, and connection, even if that connection is simply a stronger, more peaceful connection with yourself. In a world that feels increasingly stressful, fast-paced, and isolating, especially as social circles can shrink with age, a regular self-induced dose of oxytocin is a potent tool for emotional regulation and resilience. It helps you feel grounded and secure in your own skin, buffering you from the anxieties of the outside world. Finally, after the peak of the experience, the hormone prolactin begins to rise. Prolactin is closely associated with feelings of satiety, contentment, and deep restfulness. It's largely responsible for the profound feeling of relaxation and even sleepiness that often follows an orgasm, and it also mediates the sexual refractory period. This prolactin surge is one of the key reasons why orgasm can be such a powerful, non-pharmaceutical sleep aid. For the millions of older adults who struggle with insomnia, difficulty falling asleep, or poor sleep quality, timing this activity before bed can help initiate a deeper, more restorative sleep cycle. It's not just a mental distraction, it is a direct biochemical trigger for the brain and body to power down, release tension, and enter a state of repair. Good sleep is not a luxury. It is the foundation of cognitive health, immune function, and daytime energy. When you put all of this together, you see a clear and undeniable picture. This private act is one of the most effective and holistic stress management tools you possess. It directly counteracts the corrosive long-term effects of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. When chronically elevated, cortisol contributes to abdominal weight gain, high blood pressure, cognitive decline, and a weakened immune system. Think of orgasm as a physiological reset button, flushing your system with a chemistry of calm, comfort, pleasure, and well-being. It is a prescribed dose of chemical comfort, self-administered to keep your entire system in a state of balance and harmony. Physical decline. Let's now address a topic that is often met with a sense of quiet fear or resigned. Fatalism, the physical changes that occur in the sexual organs over time. There's a prevailing and deeply unhelpful belief that a decline in function is simply inevitable, a one-way street toward atrophy and dysfunction that is a non-negotiable part of the aging process. But the science tells a very different and much more hopeful story. It tells us that function is profoundly and inextricably linked to use. The phrase, use it or lose it, might sound like a tired cliche, but in the context of vascular and tissue health, it is a stark physiological reality. This principle applies throughout the body, from our muscles to our brains, and it is particularly relevant to the delicate and specialized tissues of our sexual anatomy. For men, this conversation centers on erectile health, but the implications are much broader, touching on the fundamental integrity and vitality of the organ itself. An erection is, at its core, a vascular event. It is all about blood flow. The penis is not a muscle. It is a complex, sponge-like organ composed of erectile tissues, most notably the two chambers called the corpora cavernosa. When you are sexually stimulated, your brain sends signals down the spinal cord to the nerves in the pelvis. These nerves then release a crucial signaling molecule called nitric oxide. This molecule is a potent vasodilator, meaning it relaxes the smooth muscle cells in the walls of the arteries of the penis. This relaxation allows the arteries to widen dramatically, letting blood rush in under pressure to fill the spongy tissues, causing them to become engorged, elongated, and rigid. It's a brilliant and complex hydraulic system, a marvel of biological engineering. But like any high-performance hydraulic system, it needs to be operated regularly to keep the components supple, responsive, and in good working order. When you go for long periods without any sexual stimulation that leads to this full level of engorgement, the system can begin to degrade. The small blood vessels, the arterioles, can become less responsive to nitric oxide signals. More importantly, the smooth muscle tissue within the corpora cavernosa receives less oxygenated blood, a state known as low-level hypoxia. Over time, this chronic lack of robust, oxygen-rich blood flow can trigger a destructive process called fibrosis. Fibrosis is a process where the flexible, elastic tissue that allows for expansion is gradually replaced by stiff, non-compliant collagen fibers, essentially a form of internal scar tissue. Imagine replacing flexible rubber bands with stiff leather straps. The capacity for stretching is lost. This is the physical basis of atrophy in this context. The tissue loses its stretchiness, its pliability, and its capacity to fully engorge with blood. This can lead to weaker, less reliable erections, and in some cases, can even result in a noticeable, measurable loss of penile length and girth over time. Regular stimulation, leading to full erections, is the body's natural, built-in defense against this debilitating process. It is, quite literally, a form of physical therapy for your erectile tissues. Each erection floods the area with fresh, oxygen-rich blood, nourishing the cells, clearing out metabolic waste, and maintaining the crucial flexibility of the smooth muscle and surrounding structures. It's no different than exercising your heart with cardio to keep it strong, or your muscles with resistance training to prevent them from wasting away. You are putting the tissue through its full, intended range of motion, reminding the blood vessels how to dilate properly and the tissue how to expand fully. This process helps to actively prevent the buildup of fibrotic tissue and maintains the responsiveness of the entire neurovascular system. This isn't just about being able to perform with a partner, as important as that may be. It's about maintaining the health, vitality, and structural integrity of the organ itself for your entire life. This is a crucial point for all men to understand. Erectile dysfunction is not a failure of masculinity. It is very often a symptom of underlying vascular health issues, and it can be a powerful early warning sign, a canary in the coal mine, for more systemic problems like heart disease, atherosclerosis, or diabetes. But it can also be, in part, a localized issue of tissue health that can be directly and proactively managed. By ensuring regular, robust blood flow to the genitals, you are not just chasing a sensation. You are actively engaged in the physiological upkeep of a complex and delicate biological system. You are fighting against the slow creep of physical decline. It is an act of ownership over your body's continued function, a declaration that you will not passively accept atrophy as an inevitability. Shattered stigma. We've talked about the prostate, the brain's chemistry, and the physical tissues, but none of that crucial information matters if we don't first confront and dismantle the single biggest obstacle for most people, the immense invisible wall of psychological and cultural stigma. For generations, this topic has been relegated to the shadows, spoken of in whispers if at all, and laden with a heavy payload of shame, guilt, and even sin. This isn't just an unfortunate social attitude, it is an active and dangerous barrier to health. This deeply ingrained cultural programming prevents people, especially men, from understanding their own bodies, from seeking help when things go wrong, and from utilizing a powerful, innate tool for wellness that is right at their fingertips. It is time to shatter that stigma with the overwhelming force of logic, science, and radical self-compassion. Let's be perfectly direct. The shame you may feel around this act is not originally your own. It was given to you. It is a cultural hand-me-down from centuries of religious dogma that framed non-procreative sexuality as sinful. From early Freudian psychoanalysis that pathologized it as immature, and from a general societal discomfort with any form of sexuality that exists outside the narrow confines of procreation or partnered romance. It's a toxic legacy of outdated thinking that has absolutely no basis in modern medicine, urology, or psychology. In fact, from a contemporary clinical perspective, this shame is the problem, not the act itself. The stress, anxiety, and secrecy caused by the stigma are far more damaging to your mental and physical health than the act could ever be. A key part of healthy aging is the conscious and deliberate unlearning of these harmful conditioned responses. We must choose to trust biology over baggage. One of the most powerful ways to do this is to reframe the act not as a hidden indulgence, but as a vital form of self-exploration and invaluable data collection. Your sexual response, your libido, the quality of your erections, the intensity of sensation, is a sensitive barometer of your overall health. Changes in any of these areas can be the very first signs of underlying issues like cardiovascular disease, hormonal imbalances, neurological problems, or diabetes. If you are tuned into your body, through regular self-stimulation, you are essentially creating a consistent, reliable baseline. You know what is normal for you. When something changes, you will notice it sooner, not later. This allows you to seek medical advice earlier when interventions are most effective and often less invasive. Viewing it this way transforms it from a guilty pleasure into a responsible act of health monitoring. You are paying close attention to one of your body's key vital signs. Furthermore, this is a radical act of self-acceptance in a culture that often tells older men their time is up. Society, through media and subtle messaging, can send powerful signals that our bodies are declining, that our sexuality is fading, or that it is no longer relevant or appropriate. Engaging in self-pleasure is a way to push back forcefully against that disempowering narrative. It is a personal, private declaration that your body is still a source of pleasure, that your sexuality is still valid, and that you have a right to that part of your identity, regardless of your age, relationship status, or physical condition. It is a profound way to stay connected to your own physical self, fostering a sense of embodiment and comfort in your own skin that can be incredibly grounding as other parts of life change. It reinforces the fundamental truth that you are the sole authority on your own body and its needs. By destigmatizing this in your own mind, you free up an enormous amount of cognitive and emotional energy that was previously wasted on guilt, suppression, and self-judgment. That energy can then be redirected toward more productive, life-affirming pursuits, your hobbies, your relationships, your personal growth. The act itself reduces acute cortisol, but the act of accepting the act reduces the chronic, low-grade stress of self-judgment. It is a double wellness benefit. Shattering this stigma is not easy. It requires a conscious, repeated effort to challenge long-held beliefs, but the reward is immense. A sense of personal freedom, a more honest and compassionate relationship with your own body, and the empowerment that comes from knowing you are making a choice based on sound medical and psychological principles, not on outdated and harmful cultural taboos. Intimacy anchor. Finally, let's discuss the role of this act in the broader and perhaps most important context of human connection and intimacy, especially as we navigate the complex emotional landscapes of later life. Intimacy is a fundamental human need, as essential to our well-being as food or water. It's the feeling of being seen, understood, accepted, and connected. We often equate intimacy exclusively with a romantic partner, but this is a dangerously narrow and fragile definition. Life, as we all know, is unpredictable. Partners may pass away, leaving a void that feels impossible to fill. They may develop health conditions that preclude a physical relationship. Over the long course of a relationship, libidos may change and become mismatched. Social circles can shrink as we age or move. The reality for many older adults is that periods of solitude are common, if not inevitable. In these moments, does our fundamental human need for intimacy simply vanish? Of course not. It's here that we must learn to cultivate a deeper, more resilient, and self-reliant form of connection: self-intimacy. Self-intimacy is the practice of turning that deep need for connection, care, and tenderness inward. It is about consciously deciding to treat yourself with the same kindness, attention, and compassion you would offer a loved one. And in this context, self-pleasure can be one of its most powerful and direct expressions. It is a dedicated time to honor your body's needs, to stay in a positive dialogue with your own physical self, and to provide yourself with comfort and pleasure in a way that is wholly self-reliant. It becomes an intimacy anchor, a stable, reliable source of physical and emotional connection that is always available to you, regardless of your external circumstances. It is a profound statement that you are enough to meet your own needs, that you are not dependent on another person for your sense of physical well-being and connection. This builds a powerful foundation of self-reliance. This is especially critical for maintaining a healthy sense of self as we age. Our sexuality is a core, primal part of our identity. When physical intimacy with a partner is no longer possible or available for any reason, it can trigger a deep crisis of identity. Many people begin to feel that they are no longer a sexual being, which can lead to feelings of depression, low self-esteem, and a pervasive sense of being over the hill or invisible. Continuing a relationship with your own sexuality on your own terms is a powerful way to combat this corrosive narrative. It affirms that your sexuality belongs to you. It is not on loan from a partner. It is not defined by a relationship, but it belongs to you. It is an intrinsic part of your personhood that does not expire with age or a change in relationship status. This practice keeps that essential part of you alive, vibrant, and acknowledged. This practice also serves as a vital bridge. It can keep the flame of your own libido and sexual responsiveness alive during periods of partnership drought. This means that if and when a new partner does enter your life, you haven't lost touch with that fundamental part of yourself. You haven't allowed the neurological pathways of desire and the physiological pathways of response to go dormant from disuse. You are still fluent in the language of your own body, which makes it infinitely easier to connect with another person when the time is right. But even if that time never comes, you have not abandoned yourself. You have continued to show up for yourself, to provide yourself with care, and to honor the full spectrum of your human needs without apology. Let go of the damaging idea that this is a poor substitute for the real thing. That is a flawed and demeaning comparison. It is not a substitute. It is its own thing entirely, with its own unique benefits. It is a different but equally valid form of intimate expression. It is a practice of self-love, self-soothing, and crucially, self-knowledge. It is a way to anchor yourself in your own body, to weather the inevitable storms of loneliness and change, and to consistently affirm your enduring worth and vitality. It is a quiet conversation you have with yourself that says, I am here, I am alive, and I am worthy of pleasure and care. The mindset shift is this. Your body's fundamental need for connection, care, and physical release never expires. This journey isn't about desperately trying to recapture a youth that has passed. It is about powerfully and intelligently claiming your health, your vitality, and your pleasure right now in the body you have today. We have reviewed the science, from protecting your prostate and balancing your brain chemistry to maintaining the physical integrity of your tissues. See this not as a taboo act, but as a prescribed, powerful, and private form of self-care. You have the permission and, more importantly, the power to take ownership of this tool and maintain your own wellness for all the years to come.